Hey, welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful ancient idea. How do you live a life that actually counts? We're going to use a simple but honestly profound prayer as our guide. Teach us to number our days. So let's just get right into it. Do you ever get that feeling? You blink and suddenly a week or a month or gosh, even a whole year has just disappeared. It's this universal feeling, right? That our days are just slipping through our fingers before we can even grab onto them. The source for our whole discussion today comes down to this one ancient prayer from Psalm 90. It says, "Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom." This one sentence is basically our roadmap. So, what on earth does it actually mean to live like our days are numbered? Let's find out. To really get the solution, we've got to face the problem head on. So, first up, let's talk about the reality of our time. What's so striking here is how blunt the source text is. It doesn't sugarcoat it at all. The foundational truth is that human life is short and it's fragile. It even quotes that line about how we all just return to dust. I know, it's a sobering thought, but it's the absolute necessary starting point if we're going to gain any wisdom from this. And to really drive the point home, look at how the psalmist illustrates just how fleeting our time is. I mean, these metaphors are so vivid. 1,000 years to God, that's like yesterday. It's already gone. Our lives were swept away like a flash flood, or we're like a dream you can't quite remember when you wake up, or like grass that's green and vibrant in the morning, but by evening it's withered and gone. Wow. To make it even more concrete, the text gives us a number. It says our lifespan is, typically 70 years, maybe 80 if we're lucky. And here's the catch. Even those years are often filled with trouble and sorrow. They pass by so quickly, and then we're gone. It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? So let's look at a case study. This prayer is actually attributed to Moses, and his life is a perfect picture of this journey. The first 40 years, he's a prince in Egypt, totally self-reliant. The next 40, he's out in the desert as a shepherd, learning humility and what it means to depend on God. It's only in that final third of his life, from age 80 to 120, that he's really ready to lead because he's walking with God. And this contrast is absolutely crucial. At 40, Moses thought he had it all figured out. He was educated, passionate, and he tried to fix things in his own strength, which was a total disaster. But at 80, after 40 years in the wilderness, his response to God's call is basically, "Who? Me? No way, I can't do this." And that moment of knowing he wasn't ready and had to rely on God was the precise moment he became perfectly useful. So, we know life is short, but what are the things that actively get in the way of making it meaningful? Let's take a look at the internal struggles that can stop us from living a life that really counts. The source material points inward. It suggests that the root cause of a wasted, frustrating life often isn't what's happening around us, but what's happening inside us. Our own failings, what the text calls sin, are what can devalue the precious time we've been given. Now, our source material comes from a Thai perspective on this psalm, and it gets even more specific. It highlights this one key obstacle with the word bon, which we translate as complaining or grumbling. But look at how deep this definition goes. It's not just whining, it's lamenting, blaming others, being constantly dissatisfied, murmuring under your breath, and secretly finding fault with everything. That kind of mindset can absolutely poison your days from the inside out. Okay, so life is short and our own bad attitudes can make it feel worthless. That can sound pretty grim, right? But hang on, because this is where the prayer pivots from the problem to the solution. This is the call to wisdom. And this brings us right back to the main idea. So what does it really mean to number our days? Well, it's not about being morbid and staring at a calendar. It's about this. It's about treating each day like one of those tally marks, a precious, limited resource. It means living with intention, making every single day count. Now, this is a super important distinction. The prayer asks for a heart of wisdom, not a brain of knowledge. And the source highlights this by quoting the Apostle Paul, "Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up." So the goal isn't to be the smartest person in the room. It's about having a deep, heart-level understanding that actually leads to building people up, to loving action. So what is this heart wisdom? Well, the source points to King Solomon. When God told him he could have anything he wanted, he didn't ask for money or power. He asked for a discerning heart, the ability to tell the difference between good and evil. So true wisdom is really about moral clarity. And the beautiful part is, it's presented as a gift that we can actually ask for. All right, we've looked at the problem, the obstacle, and the solution, so let's bring it all home and get practical. How are we going to count today? When you boil it all down, it really comes to these three key ideas for living a life that counts. First, we just have to acknowledge it. Life is short. Second, we have to recognize that our own negative mindsets, like complaining, can make that short life feel totally worthless. And finally, knowing those two things, we have to make a choice to live each day with wisdom and with real intention. And this really brings us to the final and most personal takeaway. It's this question right here. Knowing everything we've just talked about, knowing that your days are limited, that they're precious. If today is one of those tally marks on your timeline, how are you going to live it? What will you do to make today count? That's a question only you can answer. Thanks so much for digging into this with me. May you find wisdom for your journey. As our source material concludes, and as we see here on the screen, God bless you.